Tony Pauline, Pro Football Network draft analyst, joins us here on Sharp Money. He very much does not have C.J. Stroud going in the 7th round. Amal Shah, he's got him going 4 overall to Indianapolis, right, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, C.J. Stroud's a guy who's got a lot of upside. He's had some brilliant moments. I mean, everybody remembers the semifinal game this year against Georgia in the college football playoffs. Everybody remembers the Rose Bowl against Utah in the 2022 Rose Bowl when he played brilliantly. But, you know, it's been very spotty, and I think part of that has much to do with the coaching or the overcoaching of C.J. Stroud at Ohio State and the lack of development than C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud's got great upside. When you compare him to Bryce Young, he's bigger, he's stouter, he's got a better arm, but Bryce Young's got it going on between the ears. And I think what's going to happen is early on, whether it be the Indianapolis Colts or someone who thinks that they can develop C.J. Stroud into a franchise quarterback, he's going to go early, and that's why, and he has that upside. But there is also some downside risk to him.
Tony Pauline here on Sharp Money. So, Tony, we are a betting network, and as you mentioned with Jalen Carter, due process, very important here. Wait for the details to come out. However, prior to this news, Carter was a minus 105 favorite to be the first defensive player taken off the board. As a matter of fact, he was anywhere between 5-1 to 7.5 to 1 to be the number 1 overall pick. You had him number 1 overall. Had you factored in questions about character going into that mock?
Not really. I mean, because there really wasn't that much. You know, you got to remember, Jalen Carter's a junior, so Jalen Carter really hasn't, gone through junior timing day or spent all that much time with scouts because he just officially announced what we all knew was going to happen. He officially announced that he was entering the draft a month and a half ago. So there wasn't that much talk. There wasn't that much concern. There wasn't that much chatter. You know, you hear things on different players that raise red flags about characters. We can go through a few of them, but none of that was coming out on Jalen Carter.
Tony, I want to ask you specifically about the wide receivers. It's an interesting group. Who do you like the best in terms of that guys that are coming out that could be the first wide receiver off the board? Because there is a betting market for that one right now. Quentin Johnson plus 110, Jordan Addison 265, Smith-Njigba 330, and then Jalen Hyatt and Zay Flowers follow those two. And the person that you like the best, you also believe they'll be the first one taken.
Yeah, well, that would be Smith-Njigba. I don't think Quentin Johnson's going to be the first receiver taken. I think Quentin Johnson is going to wow a lot of people with his 40 time and with his vertical jump. He's going to jump through the roof. But you really got to watch the drills because he does not run good routes, and he does not catch the ball all that well. He drops a lot of catchable throws. Fundamentally, he does a lot of body catching is what we call it in the scouting community, which is why he's going to drop down. I think it's going to come down to one of two players, either Jackson Smith-Njigba or Jordan Addison. Now, Smith-Njigba barely played last year. He had a third-degree hamstring issue. He played, sparingly in 3 games. But if you go back to the 2021 film, the guy was awesome. I mean, coming into the season, I actually had Smith-Njigba rated higher than C.J. Stroud. That's how much I liked his game off the 2021 film. But it's a situation now where, was 2021 the exception to the rule? Or is that what we're going to get with Smith-Njigba moving forward? That's what teams have to answer. With Jordan Addison was a great receiver with Kenny Pickett at Pitt. Made the move to USC this year, was a great receiver for Caleb Williams. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's going to measure in probably about 6 foot, under 180 pounds. Not the fastest guy in the world. He'll run in the low 4.4s, maybe high 4.3s, but what he is he's a great route runner. He separates from defenders through his routes. He catches the ball cleanly with his hands, and that's what the NFL wants. Yeah, they want those big play guys like Quentin Johnson going down the field, but they also more so want those guys who can run those 12 to 15-yard routes in the underneath coverage, separate from defenders, and consistently catch the ball. That's what Jordan Addison does. So I think it'll be between Smith-Njigba and Jordan Addison. I don't think Smith-Njigba is going to run all that fast here at the combine. You're probably going to see something in the high 4.4s because he's just coming off of that hamstring injury. I think his times at Pro Day in March, I believe it's March 21st is the Ohio State Pro Day, are going to be much, much faster.
2 polarizing quarterbacks, Tony. One, Will Levis. You've got him going 19. Anthony Richardson. Where do you have him slated? And I'd also like your opinion on the 2 quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, there's a very good chance Anthony Richardson goes in the first round. There is a slight outside possibility that he's going to go top 10, but I think right now he's being overrated. I mean, he does not have a big body of work. He was a starter for basically a year and a half at Florida. When he was a starter, Florida didn't play all that well. You look at last year, they lost to Vanderbilt. They lost to Florida State, in which he completed 30% of his throws. You look at him physically, and he grades out as a top 10 quarterback. There's no doubt about it. The arm strength, the athleticism, the ability to make plays with his legs. But there was just so much work that is needed on this game. The reads, the basically scattered passes, the inaccuracy. It's a real concern. And if you take Anthony Richardson early, it's because you're going to plan on playing him early, which I think you really got to sit him. With Will Levis, it's sort of a similar situation. The accuracy can be all over the place, and the reads are not there. And I think Will Levis, not as much as Anthony Richardson, is a work in progress. And as we've seen, you go back to the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen draft. Sometimes you rush these guys onto the field, it does not work out. So you got to be careful with them.
Well, you've got your hands full. It's going to be busy, Tony, because the Jalen Carter news, as I mentioned, he was supposed to talk today. Now he's headed back to Athens. So I know you're busy. Thank you very much for the time. Tony Pauline on Twitter. Of course, make sure you go give him a follow. Pro Football Network draft analyst. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, you got it.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.